Chai with Manjula, a show about giving, featuring non-profit organizations, social activists, social entrepreneurs, and philanthropists who are giving back and making a difference.
Chai with Manjula is a show that is a must-see.
Welcome to Chai with Manjula. India is home to 17% of the world's population, which translates to more than 1.2 billion people. 70% or close to 800 million people live in rural areas. Out of that, possibly 100 million live in remote and tribal regions, for whom access to education, healthcare, and basic necessities remains a daunting challenge. There are many organizations tackling the challenge head-on, each with its own unique approach. Aim for Seva is one such organization. Founded by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Aim for Seva has special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Our guest is Vijay Kapoor, an IT professional turned spiritual teacher who will tell us about the initiative and about the Arch Vidya Center, which he has founded in the Bay Area in close association with the organization. Vijay, it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's very good to be here.
Well, before we talk about your fascinating work, tell us about Aim for Seva and how it is reaching out to rural and tribal people in India.
Okay. Aim for Seva, and AIM is short for All India Movement.
Okay.
And Swami Dayananda Saraswati is the founder of that. Mm-hmm. And he chose those words very carefully because the word movement means kind of like Gandhiji's Satyagraha movement, which is not a single event, it's a sustained effort. Mm-hmm. And also the word seva. Those of us that come from India can understand that. For example, seva for your mother. It doesn't mean one day.
Right.
It means a sustained effort to make sure that the recipient of the seva is fully healed or is fully helped.
Okay.
So he chose those words. Mm-hmm. So he started that in the year 2000, and his main objective was to help the children, the young children, of very poor and remotely based villages in India. Mm-hmm. And there's about 100 million out of 1.2 billion people in India that belong to that category. Now, if you look at the challenges that face in educating the young children of these very poor and remote areas, there are really three. One of them is, of course, the physical distance of having a school that is close enough to the children.
Right.
The second one is economic and infrastructure. And economic means that it's very expensive to open new schools, and it's even more expensive to maintain them.
Right.
And not the least of that is the fact that you need qualified teachers who are willing to go there and stay there and maintain their teaching credentials and so on. And the third one, equally important, is the family structure, because typically these families are so poor that as soon as a child gets to be about 7 or 8 years old, they put them to work because they need it.
Yeah, they need the income, and there are no schools around anyways.
Precisely, exactly. So child labor becomes a very prevalent issue in these cases.
Right.
Then the second issue for the families is that they are many times dysfunctional. Either the father is not there, or even if he's there, he's alcoholic. And so he doesn't care much about the finer points about life. They're surviving day to day and so on.
That's pretty common. Yeah.
So the traditional approach of educating the young children in these areas was to build more and more schools. And you can only do so much. And really that job is best left to the governments, state governments, federal governments, and so central government. Swamiji had a very innovative idea in the year 2000. And it came with some discussions with these villagers, actually. And he said, why don't we do the following? Instead of building more schools, we will see where there are some existing schools, that are being underutilized. And oftentimes there are. In
Yeah.
fact, we were looking at some statistics, and we found that maybe at the young age, about 45% of dropouts are there. And that dropout rate goes up to as much as 60 to 70% at a high school level. So oftentimes these schools are really not even utilized the way they should be. So Swamiji's idea was, why don't we do this? Let us build student homes near an existing school.
Okay.
And it also motivates the teachers. This is a very common thing to do, is that you find that the teachers stop going to the schools when the children also are not there.
Okay.
So there is a kind of a double whammy that occurs.
Yes.
But if you have a good home with sustained support for that, the truancy level goes down tremendously. And in fact, we have statistics to show that in cases where we have built homes, the truancy levels for the schools there is less than 10%.
What are these homes like?
It's very interesting. So the home consists of, it's different from what would be called a boarding school
Right, a
or a
hostel.
hostel.
Yeah.
Because there, the primary thing is boarding and lodging. And of course, we have to do all of that. That's the
Right.
very minimum. But more than that, we have to provide a surrogate mother or father.
Oh, so home-like
A
environment,
home away
a
from
nurturing
home.
place.
And what that means is, first of all, education. You have to walk with the kids to the school,
Okay.
bring them back. Health care. If the child is having some problem, a fever or something, you have to take it away from the school and take care of the child.
Okay.
Then food, nutritious food is very important. And perhaps even more important than that is extracurricular activities, so that the evenings and afternoons they're spent in playing kabaddi or doing something useful.
So they are
with
focusing on their all-round development.
their all-round development. What I would say a educated, simple home will do is really what they do. It's a big job.
It's a great
93.
approach, instead of building schools, you are providing homes so they can,
Absolutely.
making it convenient for them to go to school, and education is
It is the
yeah,
most productive use
Yes.
of resources.
most effective tool to fight poverty, disease,
Absolutely.
population growth, and whatnot.
Manjula, it's a very small start, but it's
Yeah.
a huge issue. I just read that the number of Indian children between the ages of 6 and 14 that are not in school is 42 million.
And how many such homes do you have? And where
So,
are they?
Very interesting. I remember in some of the discussions that I was with Swamiji at that time in Coimbatore,
Okay.
one of his disciples was Dr. Venkatraman, who's the former president of India. He's of course no more.
Yeah.
And in those discussions, Mr. Venkatraman gave a challenge to Swamiji. He said, you know what, here's how we should look at it. India consists of 600 districts. He says your goal should be to open one such student home in each one of the districts.
Okay. And that was how many years ago?
That we built our first one in the year 2001.
Okay. And how many do you have right now?
I just got the latest statistic yesterday,
Okay.
93 so far.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And 14 more are coming up next year.
Okay.
And Sheila Balaji, who heads the whole program, her goal is that by year 2020, all 600 districts will have a home.
And how much does it cost you to run
So-
these homes
So
per
our
child?
Homes are expensive to build and maintain, and there are, of course, lots of different ways people can contribute. You can
Yeah.
give, for example, for clothing or food.
Oh.
In fact, the NRIs from U.S. are one of the largest donors.
Besides money, can we send clothing and other
Yes,
things?
that could be done
Books
also.
and
Absolutely.
supplies like notebooks
Yes,
and
of course.
crayons and markers and pens and pencils and
Absolutely.
drawing books.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
That's one
definitely.
thing to keep in
And
mind.
I would even say that one of the things people can do is during their next visit to India, go and visit these places.
Okay. Are there ones closer to any of the metropolitan cities like
Yes,
Delhi,
there are.
Bombay, Bangalore?
Perhaps more closer to the southern near in Bangalore
Okay.
and so on and so forth. Delhi, Shimla, it's close to Shimla, but North India is a little behind, and we're now just coming up with that. So yes, that's all very possible to do.
Okay. How many children have actually lived in these homes so far?
So 12,000 children have already lived in these 11 years, and the present moment we have 3,000 children living in these.
So what kind of impact have you seen after starting these homes in dropout rates or
Dropout rates are
absentee?
perhaps the best way to do that, is that we have dropped it down to about from 45% to 10%.
Wow, that's remarkable.
And, and I think you raised a very interesting point, because what that does is you make one child whole, the whole village.
Right.
It's a ripple effect.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And you also have an event coming up to raise awareness about
Well,
this initiative. So tell us about that.
What we are doing, Manjula, is that this year we set a goal to ourselves. We have a campaign that has already started, and it ends on the first week of September.
Okay.
And we want to raise from this area $200,000.
Okay.
And one person just recently donated $51,000.
Wow, so you have
So
a good
we have
start.
a good start.
Very good start. Great, I'm
In
sure.
fact, one of the things I would say from the standpoint of money, there are two numbers that stand out in my mind. One is the cost of educating and supporting one child for 1 year.
How much is that?
That's $450.
Okay, so somebody pays $450. They
You
are
take care of one child
taking care
for
of one
1 year.
child for 1 year.
The second one is even more of my favorite, which is an endowment. And what that means is that for $3,400, you can support one child forever. After that child leaves the school after 3-4 years, the next one comes in.
Okay.
Because the typical ages of these children is about 8 to 10, and which is 6 to 8 grade.
Okay.
And then after that, they go back to their homes and so on and so forth.
Okay. Give us some information about how people can contact you or look up the information for the event in September.
So I will give two contact information. One is the Aim for Seva information directly, which is maintained in the U.S. We have our own site,
Okay.
and that is aimforseva.org.
aimforseva.org. Okay.
And if you go there, you can browse through the projects that are ongoing and projects that are needed.
I
Because the Chhatralayas, or the student homes, as we talked about, is, of course, the main focus, but not the only one. We also have hospitals, eye hospitals, clinics, and so
okay.
on. All of that information is there on the website.
Okay.
And especially if people want to go visit, well, this would be a great place to go.
Okay, so besides this student home initiative, you also have health initiative going on.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, kind of.
And I think that our approach, Swamiji's approach, is do not take a project on until we have a very high degree of success. Because they're all run by really very fine people. And we don't want to take on more than we are capable of doing it. So yes, definitely, we have, whenever the opportunities are
Yes, they're doing development work.
Absolutely. And in terms of our own objectives, as I mentioned, we have a goal of $200,000 for this year. That campaign ends on September 8th with a celebration.
Okay.
And that celebration will be held at the Santa Clara Convention Center.
I see.
We have an Indian dancer, Rukmani Vijaya Kumar, with her troupe coming in. And this is just a celebration. There's no fundraising or anything like that.
Okay, it's a
But
celebration.
Exactly. And for that, people can write to me, and that is Vijay Kapoor, VIJAYKAPOOR, at gmail.com.
Okay, great. We look forward to it, and I'll certainly attend the event.
Thank you so much.
You have brought us a video clip. We'll watch that.
Okay.
And then we'll carry on our conversation. We'll take a short break here to watch a video clip about Aim for Seva, and we'll carry on our conversation with Vijay Kapoor after that.
Time and again, many Indians have dominated the world stage. In politics, arts, music, education, and several other spheres. Indians who have inspired millions. But there are many more who could achieve more, if only they had the opportunity. Aim for Seva was born in 2000 with a vision to transform society through a network of Seva. Feeding the hungry is good, But education is better. It is for life. And that became Aim for Seva's mission. While statistics clearly indicate a 98% enrollment, dropout rates are as high as 48%, and the figure touches 62% in higher classes. Children did not go to school because they did not live near a school. So, Aim for Seva attempted a novel thing. They brought their home to the school. Aim for Seva set up Chhatralayas or student homes. This ensured that children attended school regularly. A typical day at the student home is as close as it can get to being in one's own home. Kids stay at the Chhatralaya and continue their education. They are provided food, clothing, shelter, evening tuitions, medical attention, and value education, all free of cost. Academic expenses including fees, books and uniforms are also taken care of.
ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂ ಫಾರ್ ಸೇವಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನನ್ನ ಮಗ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾಭ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಮತ್ತು ನನಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ತೃಪ್ತಿಯಾಗಿದೆ.
Children also participate in sports, yoga, and go on picnics and educational tours. As part of the daily routine are programs to improve etiquette and communication skills.
एम पर सेवा आने के बाद मेरा गौरव अच्छा स्कूल में जाता है और अच्छा छात्रालय में रहता है.
Today, at 80 Chhatralayas in 14 states, children can dream of a bright future.
ಇವಳು ನನ್ನ ತಂಗಿ ಎಂ ಫಾರ್ ಸೇವಾ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓದುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಈಗ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಇದರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಇವಳು ಮುಂದೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಂತ ಬಯಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ.
And sure enough, the results are coming in. Dropout rates have dropped to less than 5 to 10%. Children are more confident. Ask Bishan here what he wants to become, and back comes the answer.
Collector.
And his friend Kedar, he wants to be a
Tehsildar.
There is a marked improvement in their behavior, hygiene and health. Awards have come in plenty, as have the rewarding moments. Today, many of these children are toppers and have done their schools proud in sports at various levels, besides cultural events. A story of caring. It's a movement called Aim for Seva.
Welcome back. Our guest is Vijay Kapoor. Vijay, thanks for sharing the clip with us. It gives us a good idea of the role that Aim for Seva is playing in empowering the rural and tribal people in India. And the visionary behind it is Swami Dayanand Saraswati,
Very much.
who is recognized globally as a philosopher, author, and master of the Vedanta. He has participated in or initiated several international forums related to human rights, world peace, world religions, global preservation, and so on. So tell us about him and how he has inspired you.
Swamiji is a remarkable person. He is one of the eminent scholars of Vedanta and Sanskrit, a great visionary and a very powerful thinker and writer. I consider in my life, from my perspective, as to be the most important and impressive person I have ever met.
I see.
And I met him in 1976. And at that time, my own situation was that I was working for Hewlett Packard as a product marketing manager.
I see.
I had a wife, 2 children, and a good life, really, from all perspectives. But there was something missing. I was not as happy as I thought I should be. And I found that many things that people would just normally be very happy about, going to parties, going movies, taking vacations, just didn't do that much for me. But you know, at the same time, I didn't know what was missing.
Right.
And they say that when you are ready, a guru comes along that not only answers the questions that you have, and more importantly, tells you what questions you should be asking.
Okay.
And then answers those.
Okay.
And I must give myself some credit that within half hour of meeting Swamiji, I think this is the person for me.
So you were ready.
I was ready.
You were at the right time
because
at the
he
right
had
place.
all the answers for me, and he still is really. Has been a great inspirer for me. It was really in terms of what is life all about. What is this world? What is the nature of happiness and sorrow?
I see.
What is the purpose of the creation? Who created it? Everything. And then it started to inspire me that I have to look into this more. It just sounded so truthful and so inspiring that I decided to leave my job at Hewlett Packard
Oh,
and ask Swamiji to accept me as a student for 2.5 years at an ashram in California.
really?
Yes.
And where was this ashram?
This is an ashram about 200 miles north of San Francisco.
Okay.
And there's 60 of us that lived together for 2.5 years.
Oh,
It was difficult at first to convince my wife because she was saying that I am at the prime of my career. Why am I giving it up and so on?
Right.
But Swamiji helped me convince her that it'll all turn out to be okay, and it did. It's a very intensive course. I have a master's degree in computer science from Berkeley and an MBA from the University of Santa Clara.
Okay.
But these 2.5 years, in my view, were intellectually most challenging and most hardworking. And we went through, of course, the study of Sanskrit,
Okay.
then Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and some of the more advanced texts in Vedanta.
Okay.
And but then, when I was finished, I had promised my mother and father, and of course my wife, that I will come back and resume. So I came back to HP
Okay.
and stayed there until I took early retirement in 2000. And then I started teaching, and I founded this Arsha Vidya Center for teaching.
Yeah, and you are teaching the Vedanta over there, right?
I am, yes.
Yes. Tell us about the Vedanta, since that's what you teach, and how is it related to the Vedas?
It's a very good question. Vedanta is actually, which in Sanskrit means Vedasya Antaha or Vedanam Antaha. And the word Anta can mean either the end or the middle. And it means that it is scattered throughout Vedas. So technically it is part of the Vedas.
Okay.
But the topic is different. The 99% of the topic of the Vedas deals with karma, action in life.
Okay.
How to achieve happiness by doing things, which we all do anyway. We take care of our health, we go on vacation, we educate ourselves, etc., make friends.
Okay.
The Veda enhances it, in fact, talks about the life after death as well.
Okay.
So that is 99% of the Vedas. Vedanta's main focus is not karma, but jnanam, knowledge.
Okay.
And there is a very interesting way to look at it this way. There are two ways of gaining happiness. One is to reach somewhere which you were not there before, to go to a vacation spot. And there are many ways of getting there. You can fly, you can do this, you can do that. But if you have something and you don't know, there's only one way to know that, and which is jnana. And I give an example. Supposing you have your car keys, which you normally put on the right-hand side of your jacket, and this time, for whatever reason, you put it on the left-hand side, and you forgot that you put it on the left hand. Now you're searching all over. And the more you search through actions, the less you're likely to find it. Someone has to say, look into the other pocket. And then you say, oh.
Your presence of mind, your
Exactly.
knowledge.
Precisely. So the
Right.
Vedanta is like that. What it is argued is that a sense of completion and happiness, which is equated mathematically to infinity, is already with you. It is you, in fact. And you have some confusion about who you are. And once you resolve it, it is all over.
Okay. And how is this wisdom and knowledge relevant to today's world?
These concepts are really timeless. There is no topicality to it. When I meet a new student sometime that comes to my classes, I sometimes shock them by saying the following. I said, you know what? I have never met you before, but I bet I know more about you than you know yourself. And at first they said, no, how can that be? But I prove it to them. Because it is, our constituents are the same. And what you and I, we may look differently, but the essence of the people is exactly the same.
Vijay, they say that there is great joy in seeing people's lives change for the better and knowing that you had something to do with it. And you are experiencing that joy firsthand. You are making a difference in people's lives by sharing the wisdom and philosophy of the Vedanta. In fact, I know some people who have benefited tremendously from your classes. How has this experience been for you? How have you benefited from it?
Well, I would say it's a journey. I feel more joy and peace in my heart. I find that the highs and lows of life don't affect me as much.
Okay.
And I also have a very clear path on where to go, but I still have a long ways to go. I'm still in a journey.
Sounds great. And how can people reach you and the center?
So
Information of
we
the
do
center.
have a website, arshavidyacenter.org.
Okay.
So they can come and look at it to see all the activities. We have about 100 active students.
I see.
And so we have a lot of activities. Or they can just write to me at vijaykapoor@gmail.com.
So before we go, Vijay, as a high-tech professional who has turned to a higher plane now, what message would you like to share with our viewers out there, especially here in Silicon Valley?
Thank you. The message I would say is that as high-tech professionals, we always look for innovative ways to improve our lives. And what we may not understand is that spirituality also has the same degree of innovation. And it is in fact very possible to understand on a much grander scale that a pursuit of knowledge and happiness is precise, well thought through, and available. And I urge all of the viewers to actually look into it, find the right person, and turn their lives around with a very clear goal. That would be my message.
Well, with that beautiful message, we come to the end of our show. Vijay, I thank you very much for coming
Manjula,
by.
thank you so much for having me on the show.
Wish you all the best. Today we learned about two remarkable initiatives that are transforming lives, one in the remote and tribal villages of India and the other right here in Silicon Valley. Both inspired by one visionary, Swami Dayanand Saraswati. You may watch this show again at chaivithmanjula.org or YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back with another inspiring story about giving and people making a difference. For Chai with Manjula, I'm Manjula Gupta. See you next time.